Hi everyone, I am Preeti Kandevar, Assistant Professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department, St. Martin's Engineering College. Today I will explain about the arrays concept in C. Yes. Yes, now what is meant by array? Suppose we want to store as a 5 subjects of mass, we can declare the 5 variables. At that time we can declare some int a, b, c, d to declare as a marks of a equals to 10, b equals to 20, c equals to 30 and d equals to 40. So to overcome that problem we can use as a arrays. Now array is a collection of elements. We can store the similar type of data atoms into that continuous memory allocation. In arrays, we can store only a primitive data types. In C, there are the primitive data types are there, integer, float, character, or some user-defined data types are there, that is a structure and pointer. In that arrays, we can use either in primitive data types or we can use as any user-defined data type. But what are the elements we can store into that arrays? It's stored into the continuous memory allocation. Yes, suppose we want to store the subject of the 5 subjects marks, we can declare one variable as an array type. In that array type, we can mention some size. Suppose declaring as a integer type, either we can take as a float type or we can use as a character type. Yes, declaration of array. Suppose we want to declare the array, first we can write its data type, write down the name of the array and we can mention some size. Yes, this is the syntax for the array declaration. Yes, suppose I want to write some example. I will take the data type as an integer. The name of the array consider I am taking as a marks. And I want to store some 5 subjects marks. Yes, so I am just storing as an integer data type value. We cannot store the different types of data type value. Suppose another example I will take as a char or name. Suppose I want to store the 10 students name, I can use as a character type the name of the student and the size will be size 10. Okay, now suppose I want to store the marks of the 5 subjects, the memory will be allocated with that 10 bytes. Now, suppose I am declaring, I want to declare the subject of 5 marks. I am taking the data type as an integer, name of the array is A and the size will be 5. How the memory will be allocated? The name of the array is A, it allocates as a 10 bytes. Because integer take as a 2 byte, for integer data type, it allocates based on the computer configuration, it allocates either 2 bytes or it allocates as a 4 bytes. Suppose the base address, consider the first, the address will be 1000. The next address I am considering as an integer data type, it allocates as a 2 byte. The next address will be 1002. The third address will be 1004, next address will be 1006 and last address will be 1008. This is the memory allocation for the arrays. Suppose we want to store any array elements into that C, we can initialize the array elements. In 3 ways we can initialize the array elements. Yes, first I am taking with array with size and initialization. Suppose I am taking integer A of 5, and what is the element we are directly initializing? We can use the elements we can store into that curly bracket. Suppose I am initializing the value 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Because the size of the array will be 5 and the elements will be 5. We cannot store the more value. What is the size we are writing? The size will be 5 and we can't exceed the size of the array. Yes. Now next one, suppose how the memory will be allocated for this array and how the elements stored into that memory. Before that I was explained the name of the array will be A and the index value will be starts from address of the array considering 1000. Next we are considering it integer type, it allocates as a 2 bytes. The next address will be 1002, next 1003, 1004, 1006 and last element will be 1008. Now what is the first element of the array will be stored into that least index value. Now here the first element of the array is a 1. The 1 will be stored into that 1000 address. And every time in arrays, what is the first element is there? The first element of the array will be stored into that least index value. Because the least index value will be 0 and the index range will be starts from 0 to n minus 1. N means that is the size. Now in this example, the index value will be starts from 0 to 4 minus 5 minus 1, that is a 4. Yes. Now index value will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what is the first element of the array will be stored into that least index value, that is a 1. In next address in A of 1, we can store the 2 and in A of 2 we can store the value will be 3. In A of 3 we can store the value will be 4 and in A of 4 we can store the value will be 5. Now suppose we are storing the array elements or suppose we want to access any elements of the array, directly we can access the array elements, or suppose we want to sort the array elements either in ascending order or descending order, or suppose we want to retrieve this value. This is the advantages for the array. First we can write the code optimization is the advantage. Next, easy to traversing. With the help of that loop, any loop, either we can take as a for loop or we can use as a while loop, we can retrieve the any array element. Third one, we want to access any array elements, we can access easily with the help of the index value. Or suppose we want to sort the array elements, we can sort the array elements either in ascending order or in descending order. Now suppose here I want to change the value in that array element, we are storing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Suppose I want to change the array elements based on that index value, we can change the array element. Suppose I want to change the value in that A of 4 position, I am directly initializing the value 10. Suppose we want to print the array elements, at that time we are changing the array elements. In A of 4 location, which value we are storing? We are storing the value will be 10. And here in place of 5, we can store the value will be 10. Yes, this is the main, it is a first initialize, because in 3 ways we can initialize the any array element. First with the size and direct initialization. Second one, the second type will be array without size and direct initialize. Yes, in place of we are taking as a same name, the array name will be A and we are not mentioning any size. Suppose we want to calculate, now here how many elements are there? There are the 5 elements are there into that array, because we are directly initialize the 5 element. Suppose we want to calculate the size of the array, we can calculate the size of array. Based on that index value, we can calculate the size of the array. Now here here how many bytes, suppose we are taking as a consider 5 elements are there, integer take as a allocate, consider it allocates as a 2 bytes, then how many bytes it will be allocated for the name of the array? It allocates as a 10 bytes. How many bytes it will be allocated? It allocates as a 10 bytes. And suppose we want to calculate the size of the array, we can calculate based on the size of the array. What is the size of the array? 10. And how many bytes the first element will be allocated? What is the first? The first element of the array will be allocated considering as a 2 bytes. We can divide total size of the array divided by what is the first element size there, we can write, that is a 10 by 2, then it gives the 5. Then directly we can calculate the size of the array. Now here, because in second way we are not initialized, we are not mentioning any size, but suppose we want to calculate the size of the array, we directly calculate the size of the array. Based on that, how many elements we can initialize. Now here, what are the elements? Same, the memory will be allocated from the index value starts from 0 to n minus 1 because the size will be 5. And third way, by using loop, we can initialize the value. Suppose in array, I am just declaring the variable as an integer data type and the name of the array will be A and the size will be 5. I am not initializing any value, but I was mentioning the size will be 5. Suppose I want to read the 5 elements of the array. With the help of that loop, we can initialize the value, or we can read the array element. Suppose we want to read the array elements, we can, I am taking as a for loop. For I am declaring the variable integer I, declaring initially will be 0, then I is less than 5 and I plus plus. Because compulsory, what is the variable we are declaring now here? Int A. In arrays, the index value starts from 0 to n minus 1. That's why what is the variable I am taking as a I? The I value will be starts from 0 and the loop will be repeated up to the condition satisfied. Next one, inside the loop, I want to read the array elements. I am using as a read function, that is a scanf. I am using as an integer data type. We can use as a format specifier for the percentile D and write down address operator ampersand A of I, and I am closing the bracket. That is I am closing the loop. Now here, how we can read the array elements? Okay, now initially we have declared the name of the array will be A. In A, we are mentioning the size will be 5. And consider the address will be starts from 1000, 1002, 1004, 1006 and 1008. Now I want to read the 5 elements of the array. Initially, after that we are taking as a loop, and in loop we are declaring the I value will be 0. First, initialization. Second, we can check the condition whether the 0 is less than 5 or not. 0 is less than 5, yes, condition true. If condition will be true, we can go to the body of the loop. In body of the loop, we are writing as a scanf function. We can use as a scanf function for the reading purpose. Now here we can read the A of 0 value. Consider I am reading the A of 0 value will be 10. In A of 0th location, the value will be stored as a 10. Next, it exits from the loop. It does not exit from the loop. The loop will be continue up to the condition satisfied. Now what is the next one? The I value we are updating. Now what is the next I value? I equals to 1. Again check the condition. 1 is less than 5 or not. Again condition true. In A of 1 location, in a of one location. Suppose I am reading the value will be 20. The 20 will be stored into that a of one index, because index range will be starts from 0 to n minus 1. And next again I value will be updated. Now I equals to 2, then a of 2 is less than 5. Again condition true. In a of 2 location, we can store, suppose I am storing the value will be 30. In a of 2, the value will be stored as 30. Again the I value will be updated. The I value equals to 3. Again 3 is less than 5. Condition true. If condition true, we can read the a of 3 value. Now a of 3, suppose I am reading the value will be 40. The 40 will be stored into that index value a of 3. Now next one, again I value will be updated, it not exit from the loop. Again I value will be updated. I equals to 4. Again check the condition, 4 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, we can read a of 4 value. Suppose I am reading the value will be 50. The 50 will be stored into that a of 4 location. Now next again I value will be updated. Now I equals to 5. 5 less than 5, condition false. If condition false, it exit from the loop. And suppose we want to print the value, again we can take the loop and we can print the array value. Suppose we want to print the value, or suppose we want to write the any array elements, we can use as a printf function. Now suppose in place of here, I am reading the values in the array. The values will be stored 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And suppose I want to change any array elements, we can change the array elements with the help of that index value. Suppose I want to change the array elements into that a of 2 index value. Before that, what is the value is there? 30. And suppose in place of a of 2, I want to store as a 100. Directly we can store in a of 2, the value will be stored as a 100. Yes, 10, 20, 100, 40 and 50. Same 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The address will be 1000, 1002, 1004, 1006 and 1008. Directly we can change the array elements. Suppose I want to write a program to read the array elements, and write the array elements. In 3 ways, what are the initialization are there? We can use any types of initialization. First, we can start the program #include stdio.h int main. I am declaring the one array int marks and size will be 5. Yes, suppose I am writing one printf statement, printf enter array elements. I want to read the 5 marks subject, then we can use as a loop for int I equals to 0, I less than 5, then I plus plus. Use the scanf function, scanf percentile d ampersand of a of I. This function is used for to read the marks of the 5 subject. What is the marks we are reading? I want to print the marks of the 5 subject. Again, I am just writing a message, printf display the array, display the marks, display the marks. Just message will be displayed. And suppose we want to print the subjects of a 5 marks, again we want to use a loop for repetition purpose for I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. And suppose we want to print the array elements, we can use as a printf function, printf percentile d slash n. Why I am using as a slash? And suppose we want to print what are the marks we are printing, that marks we want to print into that new line. That's purpose I am using as a slash n and a of I. And I am closing the loop and I am closing the main function. Now here, what is the name of the array? The name of the array will be marks. Now, how many bytes it will be allocated? It allocates as a 10 bytes. Consider as an integer, take as a 2 bytes. It allocates total 10 bytes. Now, the index value starts from 100, 200, 100. Next, it increased by 2, 100, 2, 104, 106 and 108. Now first check the condition. Initialize. We are initializing the I equals to 0. Check the condition. 0 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, we can read A of marks of ampersand marks of I. Same here. Marks of now marks of first I equals to 0. Read the first marks of the first index value. The marks will be considered, I am reading as a 50. The 50 will be stored into that 0th index value. Again, the I equals to 1. Check the condition. 1 less than 5. Yes, condition true. The second value will be stored into that second index value. Suppose I am reading the value will be 60. Next, again I value will be updated. The I equals to 2. Again check condition true, condition false. If condition false, body of the loop. In body of the loop, we can read the A of marks of 3 value. Suppose I am reading the value will be 70. That is a marks of third value. Now again I value will be updated. I equals to 3. Again check the condition. 3 less than 5. If condition true, it go to the loop. Now in go to the loop, inside the body of the loop, we are reading the value will be 40. And again the I value will be updated. Now I equals to 4. 4 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, we can store the value. Suppose I am storing the value will be 45. In arrays, in marks, what are the 5 subjects marks we are reading? 50, 60, 70, 40 and 45. And what are the, we are reading some value. Suppose I want to print the array elements, we are getting the message display the marks. What are the display the marks? It takes the again loop. I will be starts from 0. 0 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, body of the loop. The output will be, first it will be print the marks of 0. Now what is in marks of 0? 50 will be print. Next again loop will be repeated. I equals to 1. Condition 1 is less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, it will be read. It will be print the value of mark of 1. What is the marks of 1? That is a 60. Next again I value will be updated. I equals to 2. 2 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, we can print marks of 2. Now what is the marks of 2? That is 70 will be print. Again loop repeated. The I equals to 3. 3 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, marks of 3. In marks of 3, we are storing the reading the value, printing the value will be 40. Again the I value will be updated. I equals to 4. 4 less than 5. Yes, condition true. If condition true, it will be print the value will be 45. Now what are the elements we are reading? It will be printing the array elements. array. Types of array. In C programming language, there are the two types of array. First one is the one-dimensional array. Dimensional array, and second one is the two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array. Now before that we learned about all the one-dimensional array. Suppose we want to declare as a one-dimensional, or we can call as a 1D array. Just I'm writing as a 1D array. Suppose we want to declare as a one-dimensional array. In one-dimensional array, we are using as a one subscript operator. If we want to declare any one type dimensional array, just we are using as a one subscript operator, or we can call as a single subscript operator. Now suppose I am declaring this syntax, the data type, name of the array, and we can write as a size. This is the syntax for the one dimensional array. Integer, suppose I am taking as an integer, the name of the array will be 8 and the size will be 2. Yes, before that we learned this is the one dimensional array. Suppose what is the second type? The second type of the array will be two dimensional array. If we call as a two dimensional, or we can call as a multi-dimensional array. Why we can call as a multi-dimensional array? Suppose we are using as a more than one subscript operator. At that time, we can call as a two-dimensional array. Suppose I am declaring the data type. If you are using as a two-dimensional array, it is similar in the form of matrix, or it is similar to that table. In table or matrix, we are using in the form of rows and column. Suppose I am declaring, I want to declare the two-dimensional array. Write down the data type, name of the array, and write down the row size, and write down the column size. Suppose I am taking as an integer data type, the name of the array will be M1, and I am mentioning the size will be 2, row size I am mentioning the column size will be 2. Now in matrix or table, we know if you are writing as a 2 by 2, then there is a size 2 rows and 2 column. Suppose we want to declare in the form of matrix, we can declare, because we are mentioning the 2 by 2 matrix, then suppose we are taking as a 2 by 2 matrix, then how many elements we can store? We can store as a 4 elements. Suppose I am taking as a M1 of 3 by 3, at that time I want to read as a 9 elements. And here suppose if we are using as a two-dimensional array, in two-dimensional array, first size will be row and the second size will be column. And we know if you are using as a two-dimensional array, in two-dimensional array, we can use as a nested for loop. In nested for loop, we can use as a more than one for loop. If you are using as a more than one for loop in arrays, the first loop for rows and the second loop for columns. Yes, the first take this loop I value, because index value starts from 0, same 0 less than. Now here if you are using as a two-dimensional array, the row size and column size 0, 0. If you are mentioned index value starts from 0, here the row size row 1 and row 2, column 1 and column 2. Now if you are using as a row, first row, first column, next first row, second column. For row 2, the row starts from 1 and the column value will be starts from 1 and the column value 2 will be 1. Suppose I want to declare suppose I am taking as an integer A of 2 by 2 matrix, and I am initializing the values are 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, how many rows are there? 2 rows and 2 columns. The first value will be stored into that first row, first column, the 2 will be stored into that first row, second column. Next, this is for second row, the value will be 3, 3 will be stored into that third row, the first column, and 4 will be stored into that second row and second column. Now here, suppose the memory will be allocated for the 2-dimensional array will be, I will show one example. Now here, suppose I want to change the array elements, or we can take, suppose I am taking as a one example, I am declaring the one array integer a of 4, and I am taking, I want to read the array elements or with the a of 2. First we can read the a of 2 value, then we are printing the third value, because in arrays the index value start from 0 to n minus 1. Now here I am taking one example, integer a of 3, the size will be 3, and I want to read the 3 integer value. Again, in third we are using as a initialization the first for loop I equals to 0, 0 less than 3, yes condition true, if condition true, we can read a of 0 value. Again the loop will be repeated, I equals to 2, we can read again condition 1 is less than 3, yes condition true, then a of 0 value. Yes, now we can read the array elements, and suppose we want to print the array elements, again we can take as a loop I equals to 0, 0 condition true, we can print the first value. Suppose I am reading the value will be 10, next value will be I value will be updated 1, yes 1, the second value suppose I am reading as a 20, and suppose next value I am reading as a 30, it will be print the array elements 10, 20, 30. Thank you for listening, and thank you.